Hello and welcome to class number 8 of the Azon Masterclass series. Today we are going to be completing the main construction of the website in terms of getting the final design elements in place, getting the menus customized and in place. And this will basically just leave us with the advertising left to do after this point. So minus the advertising, after you go through the training for this class, you should have a completed 20-page site. Now, with that said, there are some parts to today's class that are kind of technical compared to what I've been teaching the rest of the time in this series. However, I have tried to make this part as easy as I possibly can for you in terms of the technical requirements. There is some web design, HTML, and CSS coding that is involved with today's class. However, I do have code generators for you that will allow you to just input the text and then it will spit out the code that you can then take to your website, copy and paste. That way, you'll still be working with this code a little bit, but you won't have to understand any of it, is the key part. Now, in terms of the actual coding that will be put on one of these sites, you basically have two primary places. One of them is going to be on the home page, this area of the site where we kind of have a listing of the main categories and a couple of the main pages within that category. And then beyond that, we also have the category pages, a page that is going to link up to other pages that are on our website. So on these two types of pages, we need to be adding some of these custom menus. This is going to allow people to navigate through our site content. It will also allow Google to look at our site and see that it has some kind of structure to it. And that structure allows you to organize your site. And so this gets picked up on by everybody involved with your website, from Google to the visitors. So to begin with, what I am looking to do here is turn each section on this homepage, each of my category sections, I want to turn this into a menu that has a picture that links up to the category page itself and also links up to these additional pages as well. So before I begin to do that, I need the various pieces. I already have the text elements that are going to go in this menu, but I also need the links for the different pages that are going to be linked from this menu. And I also need this picture to go along with the menu. So to start with, I need something for radiation education. I'm thinking just a standard radiation symbol might work out just fine. Now, there are obviously a lot of different places that you could go to get images. You can get them directly off of the Amazon website for a product that you're promoting. You can go to Google and search for them. Ultimately, in most cases, you could probably pick any image you wanted to on the internet. And whether it's a protected or copyrighted image or not, you'll probably never hear anything about it. Despite that, though, to be on the safe side, I would highly recommend that you stick to using Google search to try to find your images. This way you can be sure that you're not going to run into any kinds of problems involving copyrighted or protected pictures. So what you want to do on Google, first you search for whatever kind of image you're looking for. Then you want to go and modify the settings for that search. If you go into the advanced search, you can actually modify the usage rights that you're searching for. And so if you want to select the one that has the top usage rights on them, go to the one all the way at the bottom, free to use, share, or modify, even commercially. Ultimately, if you're just looking to grab an image and reuse it, you could technically even go for this one, because that's really what you're looking to do. You're looking to use it potentially commercially, but you're not most likely going to be modifying it. So when I do that, I can easily find a selection of images that are, or at least should be, okay for me to use. Now here's the important part. Even though it's on Google, and even though I have selected those particular usage rights, it's still a good idea to double check and make sure that this is going to be okay to use. You can do that by visiting the page, find the image that you're looking for, see if it has any kind of usage rights on it. With things like copyrights, you can that are on Wikipedia, it's pretty easy to find. You want to look down at the bottom of the image. All this information down here, a large portion of it has to do with the copyrights. So here, they're saying this is an internationally recognized symbol for radiation. It's ineligible for copyright, and therefore it's public domain. So according to this, I could actually download and use this image and not have to even give anybody credit for it. So I can download the image with whatever file size or resolution I want to. I usually am looking for something that's not too large, because this is just going to be an image that's on my homepage as part of this menu. The 274 by 240 here will probably be plenty big. It's actually looking like, since this thing has a transparent background, there we go. This is the one that I want. I wanted to make sure that I got the image that actually has the transparent or the white background. Some of the other ones were showing up as gray. I prefer an image with a white background for these menus. It simply comes out looking better. So now, with this image, it won't let me save it this way. I can save it through here, just going to save page as, because this is actually an image file. Just in case I have any issues using that one, I'm going to go ahead and download one of these PNG files as well. So now I have the image that I want to use. So what I want to do is go in my WordPress site to media, and I want to upload this picture. So once I have my picture loaded up, I can get the URL for that image file. So now I am just going to need the page URLs for the different links that I want to add to this menu. So what I'm going to do now is go to my code generator that I've provided for you. You can find the link for this code generator in the guidebook for today's class. It's in the very first chapter, really easy to find. On this page, all you have to do is provide the URLs and the text that you want for a menu on this home page, and it will do all the hard work for you. So I've already copied the URL for this image. So I'm going to take this URL and I'm going to paste it into this box. So this is my category image URL. Then I have my category title and my category description. That is going to be this information here. This will be my title, and below it will be my description. So I have a title and I have a description. Now I need the category slug. Category slug is going to be the ending of this URL. So all I need to do is just type in that word for the slug. So whatever the URL is, if you go and edit your category page, whatever is in this box right here, this is going to be the slug. For everything else, if you want to have additional links that point to a specific page within that category in this menu, then you can add those down below. This design here will support up to 5. You can manually copy and add more in if you really want to, though. So for this page, I have 4 of them that are set up to be used. Now, typically, when you are at this point in the site construction process, you would have all 20 pages of your content already built and up on the website. So you would have links for all of these different pages. You can go and view them. I do not have all the content up on this site quite yet, so I actually do not have URLs for all of these different pages at the moment. But I do have this particular page here is already in place. So I will use this one as an example. So I'm going to take the entire URL from this page and I'm going to paste it into this box. Then I'm going to take the text that I want for that menu link. So that would be here, minus the hyphen, and I'm going to put that into my text box. So you just repeat this process for any of the other links that you want listed down below it. So I can continue to do the same thing even though I don't have my URLs yet, just to show you how this works. I'm just going to go ahead and use the URL from the first page. Obviously, you would want to be using a different URL for each of the pages that you want to add on. Now, a couple of things to point out before I generate this code. Number one, please pay attention to this part. If not, the menus that you generate will not end up looking correct. If this is your last menu that will be appearing in the far right hand column, this particular design is meant for 3 category menus. So if it's the third one that will be on the far right, you need to make sure you are checking this box. If you're gonna go for a 2 category design, like what I will be doing today, you would also want to be checking this box for that second category. So whatever category box will end up on the far right hand side of the page, you want to make sure you check this box for it. Beyond that, I can come down here and go ahead and generate the code for this page. Before I put this in though, there's a couple of things that you need to notice. One is this is the code for the actual menu itself. But before you can put this into your website and utilize it, there is more code all the way down at the very bottom of this code generator page. You need to add this code in where it says to do so. So at the bottom here, we have homepage menu CSS code. I need to copy all of the code here in this box, and then I have to take this back to my website. I need to go into the Weaver Extreme admin, go to advanced options, and then ultimately there are a couple of different places that you can put this code. I recommend to go with the fonts and custom tab under main options and the custom CSS rules on that particular page. You can really get away with putting it in a few different places, but this is the one where at least you can be guaranteed that what I've provided in this box, it will work as it is in this text box that I tell you to put it into, the custom CSS rules one. They actually, it used to be under Weaver 2, which I used for many years. It was under advanced options. Now they've moved it under main options and fonts and custom. So custom CSS rules right here. I just paste all of that code in and I save my changes. So now the other part of this is this little bit of code here. This code goes below each row of menus. Even if I'm only going to have one row of menus, I still need to put this code down at the bottom of all of that one row. So since this is designed to show 3 menus in one single row, after the third menu, then I need to paste this code in. If I wanted to have more than 3 menus, I can keep going with generating the menu code up above. And on every third one, I would be checking this box because it'll be in the far right column. And then after that third one is where this code would get pasted. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this code. I need to be editing my homepage here. And this code is going to go all the way down at the bottom of my menus. So I'm just going to go ahead and put it in right here. Now I have my actual menu code. So for this menu code, I just copy it and I go back to my page and I paste it in. Now, For the sake of brevity, and also because some of these pages as well don't exist, I'm going to go ahead and put in a duplicate menu. I'm going to move this code up above here, so it's above this menu text that I will end up needing later on. So how I am trying to do this design, it's not actually going to look as it is intended because I only have two menus. To show you what I mean, you can see on my page here how these two are kind of squished in. Number one, I have these menu items where the text is much too long for if I was going to have three of these menus all side by side. And the other part of it is I never had anything designated as a third or a right box. So with my site though, since I only have two primary categories, I have some manual changes that I need to make. Just in case you happen to only have two categories instead of three like mine, I thought it might be useful to include this. So number one, the box that is all the way on the far right, we want to remove this little bit of code, DCG box margin, and also get rid of the little space in front of it. We're only doing this on the box on the right. See, it's going to stay on this box up top, but this one I remove it from. Beyond this change, everything else that I need to change is actually going to be done on that previous page where I was entering this CSS coding. What's going on here is all of this coding determines how everything will look in terms of the menus that we have designed. So if the widths of the menus, especially if you decide to use a different theme or even maybe one of the different sub themes, if the menus don't fit correctly, this is where you would go to change that. You can change the width and set a specific amount of pixels, or you could even do this as a percentage. If you do it as a percentage though, leave a little bit of wiggle room. So for mine, I'm going to have two menus. If I divided 100% by 2, that gives me 50%. I don't want to go quite all the way to 50% though, because the extra margin that's in between these two will cause one of them to not fit. Just to show you what I mean, I'm going to put this at 50%, and I'd be willing to bet that one of these boxes will be sitting on top of the other. Yep. So I don't quite have enough room here, so I need to go backwards just a little bit. It really won't have to be much. Something like 49% will most likely do it. So now these two menus actually fit side by side, and they are taking up pretty much as much of the width as possible. They're not supposed to go all the way up to the edges because there's a little bit of a margin or padding within this page content. So this part's looking good. The only other thing I need to adjust, I've used an image that's maybe a little bit bigger than what I will typically go for, and I have text that is much needs more width than I am usually allowing within this menu. So I can compensate for these two things by again making some more adjustments to my CSS coding. Again, you won't have to do this as long as you have three main categories that you're featuring on the home page. But if you do only have two categories and you have to make these adjustments, they're fairly minimal adjustments. Changing the width of this box, for example. So for the images, we have a width setting for them here. If I wanted to make the width of the image a little larger or smaller to provide a little bit extra room for this image, the image I downloaded is actually bigger than that size, but it's being shrunk. You can see it's 274 by 240, but it's being scaled down to 165 by 145. Well, it's being scaled because of this width. That's where the 165 is coming from. So I can allow for a little bit of extra room or to make the image larger if I wanted to give that a little bit more space. But that's not entirely necessary. What's really going on here is I've only provided a little bit of room for the list and then for the image. That was intended to fit in the original box. So now that I have a lot more room to work with, I can simply make this list larger. One way to go about doing this, since I've switched to using a percentage up here, is to now use percentages down below for my image. I can make the image take up, say, 30%, and I could make the list take up the difference, or at least close to the difference. We'll go with 60%, and then I'm actually going to add a margin to the left of 5%. So just these three little changes here, and I should be in much better shape. I definitely have a lot more room now. It looks like I could maybe use a little bit of additional spacing in between my list and the image here. But more or less, I'm about where I am looking to be. So this whole process is something you would continue to do for each category. Obviously, I took a shortcut here just for the sake of brevity, but I would repeat the same process on my second category, or if I had a lot more than that, I could keep going and even have multiple rows of these categories. So this is the design that I will typically end up using on the home page. Now, in addition to this homepage design, I have one other design for you, a category page design. But it's important to note that you're not restricted to using them exactly where I tell you to. If you feel like one design would work better on a specific page of your site, by all means, go with that particular design. Just before I move on real quick, I thought I would correct. I probably already have this margin set elsewhere that's overriding it. I'm going to switch this margin to the image, and we're going to put it on the right instead. I think we'll get a result that's intended. There we go. That gives us a little more space. So if I wanted to bump this out even more, all I would have to do is keep increasing that percentage a little bit and perhaps decreasing the width of this entire list. So there is one design. The other design is something that I will be implementing on this category page. So I'm going to take one section of this Fallout survival strategy section, and I'm going to turn this into a link that then points to that particular page on my website. So this is something that you would continue to do for each additional page that you wanted to put on a given category page. So with that said, we also have a category menu generator. This one is a separate page from the one I was showing you just before. This one is also linked up in the very first chapter of the guidebook for today's class. Now, just like before, we also have CSS coding that is for this category page. So if you want to use the category page menus, then you need to add the category page CSS to your site. And the same thing goes for the homepage menus. But you only do this one time per type of page. So I'm only going to have one homepage, obviously. But with my category pages, I'm going to have multiple category pages. But I only need this CSS code to be put in my site once, no matter how many times I decide to use it on different category pages. So this is a site-wide thing and not something that is based on a particular page. So with that said, I will go back to my CSS code now. And I'm just going to go down to the bottom of my list here and paste this new code in and save my settings. So now I can actually proceed with generating this content. So this is kind of similar to what I was doing before. I have a title, I have a page URL, so that's what all of this will link up to. And then I still need an image for this particular page. The read more text at the very end of the description, it'll have just a text link that says read more. And people will be able to click that to follow that page. They'll also be able to click the title and the image as well. But if you want that read more text to say something besides read more, you just change this. Otherwise, you can leave that as it is. And then our description would just be the content, the summary that we have for this page. So going back to my page here, I have the title. I can get the URL from the actual page itself. That's going to be this page here. The description is this summary that I have already prepared for this page. And then that just leaves me with the image URL. So I need to come up with an image that I can use. This is going to be for the nuclear fallout survival strategies page. So I still have my same search settings that are labeled for reuse. And now I'm searching for nuclear fallout. Well, I could use some kind of a general image, such as this one. I could look into these maps and figure out what these are about. I would imagine one of these maps, maybe even all of them, have to do with nuclear fallout potential. I could even go for something else, like a picture of an atomic bomb going off, or maybe a fallout shelter, or something along those lines. I don't have to get super complicated with it. A lot of times, a more simplified picture, such as this one, will be a lot better. It looks like, again, I have found another one that is not eligible for copyright and therefore it's public domain. So I'm free to go about using this picture however I would like to. So I'll go ahead and download one of these. Now I do the same thing again. I upload this image, and then I want to get the URL for it. So this image URL is going in right here. I paste it in, and then I can generate my code once I have everything filled out. So I take this code now, and I put it into my page. This is going to be replacing all of this text. So my title and my description that I previously had filled out will now be getting wiped out and replaced by all of this code that I just generated. So this little piece here is what I just made. I would continue to do the same thing for additional pages that are going to be linked from this category page. And once I have finished all of those, I can update my page and go and take a look and see how this will look. So you can see from what I have displayed that I kind of picked out an image that was a little on the tall side. It's not really a square image. In most cases, a square image will work out a lot better here, just for the way that it scales and the amount of height that it takes up. With something like this, I kind of need a larger description to really be able to fill this space. But there are ways that I could potentially take this same exact description, not change my content around at all, but still make this look better with my taller image. To do that, I just go into my content and I start making paragraphs. Within all of this coding, right in the middle of it, you can find the exact description that you entered in. There's no coding in the middle of that description. All the coding exists before the description and then more of it after the description. So if you can just single out your description from this code that you already generated, you can edit the code in place. If not, you could always go back to where you were before and just generate the code again from scratch. Either way will work out just fine. It's a lot easier to just edit it in place here as long as all the extra code surrounding it doesn't make it more confusing. So what I can do is divide this into paragraphs. At the most extreme, each individual sentence can actually then become its own paragraph. So with this setup, I can update. All I've done is just space things out here, and I can refresh my page and see how this is going to look. So I got a little bit closer. It looks like I would still be better off picking out a slightly shorter image. If this image was squared, it would only be the size of this yellow area here. And so it would come out to about the same amount of length as the rest of this text content. So that's really what you're looking to do. Otherwise, you end up with a lot of blank space. Let me show you what I'm talking about. If I continued this same sort of trend throughout multiple pages that I was going to link from this category, and I had a longer image than my actual content, then I just end up with all of this white space right here in between each of my listings. Whereas if I had just a little bit more content or a slightly shorter image, then that wouldn't be occurring. Just to show you what I mean real quick, I'm just going to duplicate one of these paragraphs. You obviously would not want to do this on a final page. But just to show you how some additional text content will help to clear out all of that extra white space, or at least as much of it as you want. This amount of white space is intended to be in between. You can see now that the text actually is longer than my image. So you at least want it to be just as long as the image, and if you can, get it to go slightly bigger than the image. Otherwise, you end up with just a lot of blank space. So any category page that you have and any subcategory page that you have, you can use this strategy to link these pages up to all of those secondary content pages of your website. And again, this sometimes works out better for a homepage. It just kind of depends on what your site is about, what all of the different sections and pages of content you end up having, and how you think the best way is that you could present this information to your visitors. What's the easiest way you can think of to organize your content and present it to your visitors in a menu form that they could then navigate through all the different pages of your site? In most cases, I find it to be better using this for category pages and using a design like this for the home page, but again, it's entirely up to you. Now, you can definitely do some modifications with these two designs that I've done. If you're comfortable with some minor HTML and CSS changes, you can certainly, change around just some tiny pieces of this and obtain a completely different look. One of them that I commonly find myself doing is if I have a category page like this page, and instead of just 4 or 5 or even 10 different secondary pages, if maybe I have 20 or 40 or even 100 of them, and I want to link all of them up from this one category page, I can't really do something this big for each category if there's a ton of them, or each page if there's a ton to link up from this category. So in that case, I will condense it down and do basically what I've done on the home page here, except I will not use this extra menu, and I will make the width of everything a lot smaller. That way I could put a lot of times 4 or 5 going across the width of the page. Then when you put 50 of those on one page, it's easier to navigate through. It's easier for visitors to find what they're looking for. So just consider that with whatever content, whatever way you have decided to organize your website. Just try to think about what will make it the easiest for your site visitors to be able to find the information that they need. So beyond these two menus, we also have one other main menu on the site, and that one is found right up here at the top of the page. By default, anytime we create a page of content in WordPress, it's going to add the title and a link for that page to this menu. This would work fine if you only had a couple of pages on the site, but building one of these 20-page Amazon sites, you really do not want all 20 pages linked up from this top menu, and the links of those titles ends up wrapping this menu to take up multiple rows, and it doesn't look very good. You're really looking for more of a main navigation through your site. Your primary categories, so whatever you've linked up from the home page here, these couple of main categories, plus the home page itself, those are the links that you really want to have in this primary menu. That way people can click on any one of those links and reach pretty much any other page of your site within 1, maybe 2 clicks at most. So to accomplish this, we need to customize this menu now. This is done through Appearance and Menus. The first thing I need to do is create a menu. You can call it whatever you want. I usually call mine top menu. After you create it, you also want to look down here at the bottom. Depending on what theme you are using, this can look slightly different. These are the display locations, but this is dependent upon what theme I am using. Pretty much all of them, though, should have the primary navigation selection available here. This is what you want to select, and that is what the main menu of your page is. This is your primary navigation. So by choosing this, we are overriding that default menu. That default menu, as I told you, it will automatically add new pages as a link to that menu. It's basically doing this. It's using this feature, but we don't want to use that. So everything else will stay unchecked except for primary navigation. So once I have created and saved this menu, if I go back to my live website and I refresh it, my menu disappears. And it's disappeared because I've created this menu, but there's nothing in it yet. So now I need to add my pages. But again, I don't want to add them all. I just want to add the home page and the primary category pages for this website. I'm not talking about WordPress categories. I'm talking about the pages that you have created as a primary category page. So I have the home page here, and I have this category page at the moment. I will end up having a second category page. It's not created yet, so I would come back and add that into my menu once I have that ready. The only other pages that I will sometimes link up from this top menu is an About Us page or a privacy policy page. This way, we only end up with 4 to 6 links, roughly, being in this primary navigation menu. So beyond adding these in, we also need to edit them. They will use the title of the page by default, but for my home page, I just want it to say home and nothing else. For everything else, if the titles are short enough and they make sense, I could leave them as they are. If they were longer and more descriptive, then I might need to shorten them down. Otherwise, once I have 4 or 5 links here, it's not going to fit in the space that I have available for that menu. I'm talking about the space going across your website. So once I have added those links in and saved my menu, now this goes live on my site, and this is something that stays up on all the different pages throughout the entire website. Now, one of the final things that I recommend for you to do is go back through your site pages and figure out where you have dead ends at. When you end up creating advertisements on your site for the different Amazon products that you want to promote, any page where you're going to put those Amazon ads, do not consider those to be dead end pages at this point in time. You're looking for everything else. And so with the way I teach to build sites, this would basically be all of the informational pages. So what I mean by a dead end is when somebody is browsing through your website, within the actual content of the page, where do they run out of something to click on to kind of continue to the next step? So on the home page, they can keep navigating to category pages on my site. On category pages, they can keep navigating to secondary pages on my site. But when they land on one of the informational secondary pages, there's going to be a dead end. There are no links in most cases. There is no objective basically for me to try to get the visitor to do once they have finished off with this page. So when you find those dead ends, make a note of them and figure out a way that you can connect them to something else on your site. So for this particular page, if I'm going to be promoting, if I can find potassium iodide tablets to sell on Amazon and I make a page for that, I can link that page up with this keyword phrase right here. That would just be one fairly simple way of forwarding them along. So you want to think, after somebody has read this informational page on my site, what product or possibly products that I review elsewhere on the site would my visitor likely be interested in purchasing? And then you want to provide a link for them to be able to follow, preferably down towards the bottom of your content in the last paragraph or two, if at all possible. Sometimes, though, if you want to link up to a few different things, it's quite okay to include a couple different links going through your informational articles. Doing this, you're giving them something else to do on your site once they have finished one of these informational articles. That way, if traffic lands on this page from other links on my site or from a search engine, so when they finish this article, they have something else to do on my site, something that I'm encouraging them to do that is likely to be a topic or a product that they are interested in. So this is one way that you can convert the traffic for informational topics into a sale on an Amazon product. You help them out with the informational topic and whatever product you think would be relevant to them. Maybe it's a product that helps them out with the situation you were just talking about. Then you forward that traffic along by providing them these links. Now, in addition to these links, the other thing you are kind of looking for is going to be pages on your site where you have just a large amount of plain text and nothing else going on. The one exception might be these bits of bold header text that you will have in your articles. If I have a page just like this and it only has plain text and these bold header text items, I'm looking to do something else with this page. I don't want to leave it completely plain like this. So any page where you already created a menu, your home page, your category pages, these pages aren't going to be plain looking. They're already going to have images and links. Any pages where you are going to put an Amazon product affiliate link, those pages will get an image from those affiliate links. So you can ignore the product pages. So again, this really ends up in most cases, if you build your site the way that I teach it, this should just be your informational pages, would be your plain pages that don't really have anything special. They don't really have any kind of visual aid to go along with them. So on these informational pages, I'm looking in most cases just to add one, maybe two images. It kind of just depends on the page and what it's about. So on this page, whatever image I had previously picked out and uploaded to link up to this page, I can do the same thing here and set an alignment. Either left or right works out just fine. And then you put this into your page. Now, just depending on the way things look or where you have sometimes the bold header text, you just kind of have to play it by ear, your personal preference. Sometimes the image works out looking better on the left hand side of the page here. Sometimes it works out better on the right. If you want to switch them, it's pretty easy to do. Um, you have the alignment that was showing up when we actually selected and inserted this image. You can technically go back through in this visual tab and edit the image, change the alignment on it this way to make it align on the right. The other thing that you can do in this text tab is to look for this bit of text. It'll say align left or align right. It's all one word, there's no space in there. You can just change the word left to right, and that will also make the switch for you. So this is pretty straightforward and not very difficult, but it adds a little something extra to the page. It makes it a little less boring. This way, once I have the image, the content, my header text, and maybe a link or two down at the bottom of this page, it looks like a fairly complete page. It doesn't look like it's necessarily missing anything. So this is what you're looking to accomplish. Um, just giving a little bit of style and design to your website without overdoing it. You don't have to go crazy here. More of a simplified look like this, in most cases, I have found usually ends up working out a lot better than something that's super, super complicated and flashy. Now, at this point in time, your site, once you have gone through what I've been teaching you, putting your homepage menu, your category page menus, taking care of the primary navigation menu at the top of the site, and then adding images and links to your informational pages, your entire website is complete with the one exception of your Amazon affiliate ads. Now, these Amazon ads is what we will be covering in the next class of this series. I'm going to teach you how to get the advertising plugin set up and running, and teach you how to use it, and teach you how to insert the ads into the website. Once those ads are in, the entire website is done. The other parts of this training course, past that advertising lesson that comes next, all of the other parts of this training course are just follow-up pieces, extra things that you can do to help out with bringing your site a little more traffic, future things that you can do in terms of updating or maintaining your website. So the actual building part is almost complete here. Now,